Topping today's news, the country records 4 traffic fatalities on 4 different islands this past weekend. COP27 agrees on a new fund to assist small island states recover from climate-induced natural disasters. The courts set to get more judges to help address the backlog of cases, and a wrap on various crimes taking place on the weekend. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you join us. A busy weekend for the Traffic Division of the Royal Bahamas Police Force as the country has recorded 4 separate traffic fatalities in less than 36 hours. The latest fatality occurring on Eleuthera in Gregorytown. According to police reports, around 9:28 p.m. Sunday, a silver Nissan Note occupied by a male and a female collided into a Casuarina tree. The female succumbed to her injuries on scene, while the male driver was airlifted to New Providence and is detained in hospital in serious condition. 2 hours prior to that accident, police were called to the scene of a traffic accident here in the capital. Preliminary reports indicating that around 7:30 p.m., a 62-year-old male of West Street was struck by a vehicle while walking in the Carmichael Road area. The man was taken to hospital via EMS personnel, where he later succumbed to his injuries. Also here in the capital, photos of an officer from the Traffic Division went viral as the officer was pictured lying on the grass in the median of a thoroughfare after reportedly being knocked off his motorcycle in another traffic accident here. You can see those photos right here. We can confirm, though, that the accident involving the traffic police did not result in a fatality, but we were unable to confirm the officer's present condition up to news time. Early Sunday morning, police on Andros discovered the body of a 60-year-old female off Queens Highway, North Andros, unresponsive in a vehicle in the area of Low Sound, Andros. Sometime around 12:35 a.m., officers were on routine patrol in the area of Low Sound when they observed a pink Nissan Note. You can see that Nissan Note pictured here with extensive damages to the front end of the vehicle. They also observed damages to a business establishment in the immediate area of the vehicle and subsequently made a check of the vehicle. That's when they discovered the unresponsive female driver. Medical personnel on the island visited the scene and confirmed no vital signs of life. Meanwhile, the first traffic fatality over the weekend claimed the life of an officer of the Royal Bahamas Police Force on Acklands. Sometime around 3:30 p.m. Saturday, preliminary reports indicate that a male driver of a white-colored police vehicle was traveling north along Kings Highway when he reportedly lost control of the vehicle, causing it to overturn. Medical personnel on the island were summoned to the scene and reported no vital signs of life. A team of officers from the Traffic Division here in the capital are on the islands impacted by traffic accidents over the weekend, assisting with the investigations there. Police are appealing to members of the public to be extremely vigilant and careful while driving and while walking on the streets. Meantime, the weekend began with a late-night shooting in Hunter's Grand Bahama that pushed the country's murder count to 119 for the year, according to JCN's records. Police are now actively investigating the circumstances surrounding the incident, which occurred late Friday just before midnight when Grand Bahama police received a report of a shooting incident at a business establishment in Hunters. Initial reports suggest that the victim was approached by a lone gunman who discharged a weapon in his direction, shooting him multiple times about the body. The victim was transported to the Rand Memorial Hospital, where he is pronounced dead, or he was pronounced dead. Again, this matter is under active investigation. With the opening of the new legal year, Chief Justice Ian Winder said in the coming months, the judicial system will receive much-needed manpower with getting more judges and magistrates on the benches to facilitate the current backlog.
We're undergoing a competitive recruitment process. We are seeking to seat 4 to 5 judges early in the new year. The applications are complete and we're going through the process. So hopefully very early in the new year we'll have new judges to assist in the process. The
Chief Justice says that delivery deals is also a matter that will soon be addressed.
The issues with delays in delivery of judgments, we're trying to resolve those as well. We will have appointed 3 acting judges And that process really was to delist two of our judges who had challenges with backlogs. So, and they're allowing them to write their judgments to be able to catch up in respect to those.
In recent times, there has been a trend with individuals who were out on bail, particularly for murder, being killed before proper sentencing. Chief Justice Weiner suggests that an implementation of new judging should address the backlog situation with the courts, which will in turn allow individuals to be tried and sentenced before meeting their untimely demise on the streets. The journey is just beginning for small developing countries that are considered most vulnerable when it comes to the impacts of climate change. And on that journey is a new funding arrangement on losses and damages for countries most affected by climate-induced natural disasters. The agreement has been hailed as a historic moment at the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP27, in Egypt. COP27 should have come to a close on Friday. However, time was extended to Sunday for countries to reach an agreement on the climate funding, which will see rich developed nations pay smaller developing countries for the damage and economic losses caused by climate change, particularly as small nations do not significantly contribute to carbon emissions which cause global warming. Small island nations, Africa, Asia, and Latin American states, a total of 134 countries led by flood-battered Pakistan, presented a united front to push through the fund.
COP27 took decisive action. Parties established a new loss and damage fund here and made history. This is the start of a new paradigm that truly accounts for the burdens of climate change. We live with climate impacts daily, and these impacts are becoming unbearable. It's a sad fact that the stark reality of human suffering around the world these past months due to climate change helped to strengthen our resolve here. Establishing this fund signals to the world that loss and damage will no longer solely be borne by those governments and people least responsible. Today is a step towards climate justice.
The Alliance of Small Island States is calling on all parties to work constructively to design and operationalize the fund over the next 12 months. The new fund arrangement must be ready by COP28 in Dubai. Opposition leader Michael Pintard is calling for the resignation of Minister of Works and Public Utilities Alfred Sears, claiming that the minister, or that Minister Sears, blatantly denied that he nor Prime Minister Philip Davis were advised on any recommendation on how the government could have avoided Bahamas Power and Light's rise in fuel costs by 163%. The FNM's leader calling for the minister's resignation came just 2 days after he urged government ministers in Parliament on Wednesday to admit they had received the recommendations. Mr. Pintard's calling the Works Minister actions egregious.
His transgression was seeking to cover up the bad judgment that he and his colleagues, and certainly the Minister of Finance has the greatest responsibility, the bad judgment that they exercised, they sought to cover it up. When we laid a document in the House of Assembly, they started to backpedal, but pride would not allow them to be completely transparent that they knew there were recommendations, and their stubbornness, their tribalism, caused them to still put this burden on the back of Bahamians. We believe that the statements made by Alfred Sears in the last sitting of the House was absolutely crystal clear. He then completely admitted that he knew, which meant he knew he was telling an untruth consistently, and he went further to say the Prime Minister knew. And they said the Minister of Finance was aware.
In the last sitting of the House of Assembly, the Marco City MP accused the Minister of Works of misleading the Parliament after Mr. Sears admitted to seeing documents of recommendations to continue BPL's fuel hedging initiative, noting that those documents were addressed to the Prime Minister or to the Minister of Finance, who happens to be the Prime Minister. This after just last month, the Prime Minister told parliamentarians that he had not received any briefing or seen any papers of the same. However, on Wednesday, Minister Sears says the Ministry of Finance decided to reject the recommendations after reviewing it. Mr. Pintard contends that the government failed to act properly to reduce the cost of electricity, adding that the rise in fuel costs was not inevitable like the government is saying, had they listened to the recommendations left by the previous administration.
We said to them, we are aware that you got recommendations. The recommendation said up to the point that they came to government, we had 2 years of data. And the data showed that we'd save, on the low side, 25 million. If we left it in place through 2022, we could be close to approximately around 50 million. The Minister of Works and the Prime Minister, on their feet in the House of Assembly, denied that they got any briefing notes. They were not advised of any recommendations that could have saved the Bahamian people what we now believe to be over $100 million we're on the hook for.
The opposition leader goes on to say that Prime Minister Davis must now indicate if what Minister Sayers said about him is truthful, as the country cannot have people who are loose with the truth. The FNM leader says he is more than happy to meet with the Prime Minister on this and any other matter if transparency is guaranteed. And finally, in this segment, criminal investigators also investigating allegations of sexual assault over the weekend. In fact, 3 separate incidents, with police taking at least 1 male into custody in connection with one of those incidents. On Friday, November 18th, a 27-year-old female resident of Andros reported she was awakened by a male known to her who forced entry into her home and sexually assaulted her. Officers on Andros reported arresting a 24-year-old male resident shortly before 3 p.m. on Saturday in connection with that incident. Meantime, 2 suspects remain at large here in the capital. Police say in the second incident on Friday, a 37-year-old female reported that a male known to her came to her residence uninvited and while there attempted to sexually assault her. And in the third incident on Saturday, 2 adult females ages 20 years old reported that a masked gunman forced entry into their home and sexually assaulted them. The suspect then fled the area on foot in an unknown direction. If you have any information regarding any of these matters, police are appealing for you to contact them at 911, 919, or Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS. That's 328-8477. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.